Once upon a time, maybe even in your house, something amazing happened. The toaster wanted to travel in time. You probably know what a toaster is, right? It's that kitchen appliance used for making toast. But this toaster wasn't just any toaster. This was a magical toaster. And magic can happen anytime, anywhere, especially when you least expect it. It all started one morning when two young adventurers, a brother and sister who lived in the house, woke up feeling super hungry. They were so hungry that they could have eaten a horse. The little boy, whose name was Toby, rubbed his eyes and said to his sister, "I want some breakfast." His sister, Tabitha, also rubbing her eyes, replied, "Me too." Their mom and dad had already left for work, so they were going to have to prepare their own breakfast. Toby opened the cupboard and took out the cereal box. He poured the cereal into a bowl and then filled it with milk. But Tabitha didn't want cereal. She was in the mood for toast. She liked her toast extra crispy, so she took 2 slices of bread and put them in the toaster. Then she pressed the button and waited. But while the toast was popping up, suddenly the lights flickered and the room shook. The toast was coming out of the toaster, but not like normal toast. It looked all crumpled up, and as soon as Tabitha touched it, the toast disappeared and she felt a strong wind. What was happening? She had no idea. Just then, a loud buzzing sound filled the air, and an enormous bee flew out of the toaster. It was bigger than any bee she had ever seen before. And then the most amazing thing happened. The 2 pieces of toast reappeared in the hands of the giant bee, which quickly flew out the window and disappeared. "What the heck?" said Toby, looking at his sister. "I think," Tabitha said with wide eyes, "that we just sent a bee back in time." At that moment, both children understood that the toaster wasn't just any toaster. It was a time-traveling toaster. At that point, they weren't sure what to feel, like amazement or fear. What would happen next? That's what they were wondering. The only way to find out was to follow the bee. So without wasting a second, they ran after it. They followed the bee for quite a while through fields, meadows, and forests, until finally they came to a clearing. And there in the middle of the clearing stood a large cave. Toby and Tabitha hid behind a nearby tree and peeked into the cave. Inside, they saw a group of animals and plants that they hadn't seen in a long time. They saw dinosaurs, prehistoric mammals, and strange-looking plants. They were all gathered around a huge boulder listening to a talking bee. It was the same bee that they had sent back in time with the piece of toast. The bee told everyone that it had traveled to the future and had seen how dirty and polluted the world had become, all because humans had never learned to live in harmony with nature. The bee suggested that everyone should leave this place and start a new life far away from human settlements. The animals agreed right away, but the plants couldn't move. After all, they were rooted to the ground. One brave little sprout named Sprout stood up and said, "Don't worry, plants, I'll take care of that." And with that, he set off on an adventure to find the magical toaster. Meanwhile, Toby and Tabitha were eavesdropping on the conversation, and they couldn't believe what they had heard. They understood now why their toaster had started acting strangely and why the bee had come back. It needed their help. But how could they help it? Toby thought for a moment. "I think I have an idea," he said to his sister. He went over to the cave and called out, "Hello, everyone. I'm here to help." Everyone inside the cave turned to look at him, and the bee buzzed loudly. Toby continued, "We need to get that magical toaster fixed, so it doesn't send anyone else out of time. If we don't, someone might end up changing history forever." The animals all nodded in agreement. They knew that Toby was right, so the animals and plants joined forces and began searching for the magical toaster. They looked everywhere, but it seemed to have vanished. Just when they were about to give up, Sprout spotted something behind a bush. It was the magical toaster. But it wasn't just the toaster that caught his eye. There were also 2 time travelers standing next to it. Toby and Tabitha had found the toaster first and were trying to fix it with duct tape and glue. "You found it?" Toby exclaimed when he saw the others. "Good job," said Tabitha. "Now let's get to work." Together they all worked hard to repair the toaster, and when it was finally ready, they all gathered around it. The bee was first in line to go. It flew into the toaster and buzzed happily when it arrived back in its own time. Next, it was the animals' turn. They all waved goodbye to Toby and Tabitha before disappearing into the toaster and reappearing in their own time. Finally, It was the plants' turn. They were all very sad to say goodbye to Toby and Tabitha, but they knew that they had to do it. As soon as the last plant disappeared, Toby and Tabitha hugged each other. They had saved the day. Then they looked at each other and burst out laughing. They couldn't believe what had happened. It had been such an adventure. From that day on, Toby and Tabitha became known throughout the neighborhood as the heroes who had saved the plants and animals. They never forgot the time they traveled with a bee in a magical toaster, and every night before going to bed, they would remember all the friends they had made along the way. In fact, if you listen very carefully, you can still hear them laughing and playing in their dreams. And if you're very lucky, you might even see a magical toaster in your own house. Now it's time for you to close your eyes and dream of magical adventures. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that we can tell you more exciting stories. Hey there! Are you enjoying the stories so far? We're so happy to hear that. Keep being awesome and keep being you. And for those of you who are always eager for more, here's a sneak peek of what's coming up next. Once upon a time in a distant land, there was a beautiful princess who had a problem. Oh no, I can't wait to hear more. Well, then don't go anywhere. Just stay tuned for more adventures and let the magic unfold.